I was well behaved, never checking his phone, never asking about his schedule, always giving him ample private space. One day, I even turned and ran the other way when I bumped into him strolling with a beautiful woman. 5 months into our relationship, we were watching a movie on his tablet when a message popped up in the chat. I think my water just broke. I stared at him and tentatively asked, So, should I go help your sister with the baby? That evening, I was standing by the school gate, about to take the bus to my soul-crushing internship at the law firm, when a voice called out to me, Hey, you standing over there? I was stunned. I turned, pointed at myself and asked, Me? He waved at me saying, Yeah, you. Come here. Bewildered, I walked over. The guy handed me a card and said, Be my girlfriend. I'll give you $40,000 a month. Interested? I was dumbfounded. What? He repeated himself. This time I understood. $40,000. I quickly snatched the card and shouted, Honey. That's right. He responded, pleased. Then, with a dismissive glance at the person across from him, he said, See? Who says I'm broke? I just didn't feel like spending money on you. Ha, who are you trying to fool with an empty bank card? The woman said. That's when I noticed a heavily made-up woman standing across from us. Actually, the woman did make a point. The guy pulled his phone out of his pocket and said, Open your Alipay QR code. I obediently pulled my phone out of my pocket, a phone I'd had for years, and opened the QR code. Immediately, a mechanical female voice announced, Alipay deposit of 300,000 yuan received. My eyes lit up. The guy yelled to the woman outside, Did you hear that? Any questions? The woman, face darkening, turned and left. The guy smirked, turned to get into his car, and suddenly he remembered something. Where are you going? I'll give you a ride. I was about to say the location of the law firm, but then I reconsidered. I was now $40,000 richer. Why should I still be slaving away as an intern? I'm going back to my dorm. Okay, then I won't drive you. There's $150,000 on the card, plus the $40,000 just transferred, which makes $190,000 total. Is it okay to be my girlfriend for 6 months? I shook my head vehemently. Absolutely. The guy opened his WeChat QR code and said, Let's be friends. I quickly pulled out my phone to scan the code. My contact name, girlfriend Sherry Lee. I was brilliant, putting my name right away. He accepted the friend request. Perhaps because he saw my name, he said directly, My name is Peter Hughes. I was taken aback. Huh. Peter frowned. I said, My name is Peter Hughes. Oh, he was telling me his name. Okay, honey, I got it. He said, I'm leaving, contact me if you need anything. And just like that, he drove off in his Rolls-Royce. Back at my dorm, I still couldn't believe that something like this could happen to me. But the Alipay balance was indeed $140,000. Was this some kind of new scam? I immediately opened up all the social media platforms to search for similar cases. Nothing. This incredible stroke of good fortune had finally landed on me. Wait, he hadn't told me the bank card password. Without the password, wasn't that the same as having no money? I opened our chat. Honey. There was no movement on his end. I didn't know what he was up to. I waited another 5 minutes but still no reply. Enough waiting, time for a shower. As expected, he replied after I finished. What? I quickly replied. The bank card password. This time he replied immediately. 011203. Remember it well, it's my birthday. I replied with a, got it. And then I sent a cute begging for attention emoji. He didn't reply again. I put my phone down and secretly snuck out to the school's ATM to check the balance. Sure enough, there was $150,000. I returned to the dorm overjoyed. Life was so wonderful, time to sleep. At 3 a.m, I was sleeping soundly when suddenly a ringtone woke me up. I answered the phone, annoyed. Hello, who is it? Your boyfriend, came the reply. Get lost, I don't have a boyfriend, I said. There was a silence. Wait, I did have a boyfriend. Yeah, sorry, I was still half asleep. I'm awake now. He spoke. I thought you'd taken the money and run. I chuckled and said, How could I? Why is my boyfriend calling me at this hour? he said. I was afraid you'd forget about me. I'm telling you now, you are my girlfriend. You can't forget about me, your boyfriend. I quickly said, how could I? But let's be clear, I am just in name only, you know? He scoffed and said, got it, I understand. Good, excellent. I have an 8 a.m. class tomorrow. Get me breakfast, send me your classroom, dorm, and phone number. I'll send them to you later. I said, no problem. Sleep, he said. Okay, good night, honey. Good night. The next day I woke up early, got ready, went straight to the cafeteria, bought breakfast, and started walking back to the dorm. As I walked, I became worried. I had been too excited yesterday. I had completely forgotten to take a good look at my nominal boyfriend's face. I just remembered that he was very handsome. There shouldn't be too many handsome guys on campus, right? And there shouldn't be many who live in the same dorm building as me. So there I was carrying several bags of breakfast, searching and staring intently for a long time. Finally, 10 minutes later, I saw a very handsome man coming out. He was also wearing a black coat. It must be him. I remembered him wearing a black coat yesterday. Babe, good morning. The guy was stunned. The guy next to him teased, Zane Carter, are you secretly dating without telling us? And it's our department's beauty queen. Zane Carter? Isn't he the top student in our department? Sorry, my girlfriend was still half asleep and recognized the wrong boyfriend. A familiar voice sounded from behind me. He crooked his finger, smiling. Come here, your babe is here. I had never been so embarrassed in my entire life. Peter pulled me along for a while, and then released my hand. Still half asleep? I shook my head quickly. No, he asked. Then why did you recognize the wrong person? Looks like the money wasn't enough? I quickly said, no, it's more than enough. There will absolutely not be a next time. I have already deeply etched my husband's face into my brain. He squinted. Since your attitude is good, I'll let you off this time. I smiled and said, thank you, honey. I don't have class this morning. Want me to accompany you? He gave me a wicked grin. Stick around. I found out he was in the finance department when we arrived at his classroom. He pulled me to the second to last row. Then he began picking and choosing his breakfast. This noodle is too thick, I don't like it. The dumplings are good, you can get those next time. I took a notebook from my bag and began to take notes. Boyfriend's preferences. Thick noodles, don't like. Likes dumplings. Peter looked at me confused. Then he burst out laughing. Honey, you're so funny. This is the only way to get money from a capitalist, I thought. From that day on, when I didn't have classes, Peter would often ask me to accompany him to his classes. It wasn't a problem, it was my job. But the most annoying day was Wednesday. Peter had a class at the second campus in the morning, and my first class was at the main campus in the afternoon. The two campuses were very far apart, which meant that I never got a good seat in my class. When I arrived at the classroom today, it was almost full. I looked at the bustling crowd and tried to find an empty seat by standing on my tiptoes. Hey, there's a seat here. I looked over. It was Zane. Thank you, Zane, I said. I was a little embarrassed. After recognizing the wrong person that day, I hadn't explained things to him. He must have been totally confused. Taking the opportunity, I started, Zane, I'm sorry about the other day. I recognized the wrong person. He smiled and said, it's okay. But how did you recognize the wrong boyfriend? I couldn't possibly tell him that our relationship was a financial transaction, could I? In an emergency, I made it up on the spot. I'm in an online relationship with him, and it was our first time meeting. He listened and then said, oh, I see. I thought Sherry didn't date. Because I heard that many students have confessed to you, but you turned them all down. I let out a chuckle and said, Peter is different. I almost believed my own words. I originally didn't plan to date. I had been an orphan since I was little, and it hadn't been easy to get to where I was now. I valued money a lot. So, as soon as university started, I had been doing various part-time jobs to support myself. If Peter hadn't given me the money, I might not have even given him a second look. And so, I sat with Zane through the class. Zane was indeed a top student. He knew how to answer all of my questions and taught me easily. I was so into learning that I completely forgot about the time. until a voice came from the door. "Honey, are you recognizing the wrong person again?" Just as I was about to answer, Zane said, "No, I was just helping Sherry with her homework." Peter said, "Oh, let's go. Isn't your stomach growling?" Only then did I remember that I had long since passed my hunger time. I stood up and while packing my stuff said, "Thank you, Zane." "No problem," he said. On the way to the cafeteria, Peter's face was dark, and he didn't say a word. "Are you also very hungry?" "Not hungry," he replied. "I'm starving," I said. "I wish you would starve to death," he retorted. "Are you angry?" I asked. "No," he replied. That meant he was. The internet said you can't trust a man's mouth. If he said no, it meant yes. If he said he wasn't angry, it meant he was angry. But I had never dated before in my life. I didn't know how to coax people. What do? I tugged on the hem of his shirt. He didn't react. "Honey, don't be jealous." He glanced at me and said, "So you know I'm jealous." "I thought you were a blockhead," I retorted. "I do have emotional intelligence." He asked, "Oh, then what does your emotional intelligence tell you is the right way to coax your boyfriend?" Something yellow suddenly flashed through my mind. No. "Honey, I'm sorry, I won't do it next time. I will do anything you ask me to. Of course, nothing illegal or giving myself over to you." He gave me a wicked smile and said, "Don't worry, I won't. Here, give me your phone." He opened my phone's camera and took a few photos. Then he began to admire himself. I stood on the side and said understandingly, "Should I post it on my social media to let everyone know?" "You are wise. Post it now." With that, he handed my phone back. I chose a picture and captioned it, "Official announcement." After eating, my social media blew up. The comments were all, "When did you start dating? Is your boyfriend the rich second-generation guy from the finance department? What happened to focusing all your energy on making money?" Well, I was kind of. Peter didn't comment, but he did give my post a like. He didn't post on social media, and of course I didn't mind. I was a worker. How could I make demands of my great boss? But after this incident, I felt that my dating experience was not good enough and was seriously affecting my boss's dating experience. I decided I needed to look at some campus romance novels and watch some sweet romance dramas to brush up on my dating knowledge. Just as I opened a Korean drama, my dorm room door was slammed open. Two girls rushed at me, squealing and firing questions at me. "You're dating and we only find out through your social media? Who confessed first? How did he confess? Have you held hands? Have you kissed? Tell us everything." I was taken aback. This whole thing started with, "Wait a minute." Our dorm head, Alice, manually pressed the pause button. She grabbed 2 bags of chips from her closet and opened them. "Okay, continue." So, I spent 3 minutes roughly explaining things. The two of them were stunned for a long time. $40,000? Every month? It's not a scam. Did you sign a contract? I answered honestly, he gave me the money but I didn't sign a contract. You're an idiot, you should be able to get the money back. Wait until I ask my boyfriend. He is in the law department. I'll get him to get you a contract, Alice said as she went out on a phone call. The other two of us stared at each other for 2 minutes. Then Alice came back. We are printing out a contract now. He has to sign it. Chloe hesitated. Peter, Zane, they don't seem like the type of people who would try to get the money back. My boyfriend's in the same class. His family is loaded. I've bumped into him a few times when we were on dates, and he was driving a different sports car every time. That doesn't matter. We are talking about $40,000 here. We need to be cautious. Let's go. Let's go get the contract printed now. I thought it was indeed a good idea to sign a contract. So we 3 girls squeezed into the print shop downstairs and printed a contract. I put it in my canvas bag. Bella frowned. No, you're making $40,000 a month now. How is your spending still at the $9.99 sale level? Chloe agreed. That's right. It's still early, why don't we go shopping? I looked at my bag. There's no need, right? We're all students. A bag that can hold my books is good enough. Tisk, Peter's friends are all rich second-gens. You need to at least buy some decent things to make your sugar daddy look good. I nodded. You have a point. The three of us took a taxi directly to the mall. Alice, who came from a well-to-do family, was knowledgeable about luxury goods and picked out some basic items that suited my figure and temperament. After a spree of shopping, the three of us walked out, carrying large bags. We hadn't gone far when Chloe suddenly whispered, "Sherry, look to your left. Isn't that Peter? Why is there a woman next to him? He just went official and he's already cheating." I quickly and nonchalantly glanced over. Peter had his hands in his pockets, walking forward impatiently. The woman beside him, with blindingly fair skin, was hard to see clearly. She was holding his arm, struggling to keep up with him in her high heels. Alice rolled up her sleeves. "It really is him. And he still has the nerve to walk in our direction. I'm going to go scold that mistress for you." "No, no, no." I quickly grabbed Alice, pulled out the sunglasses and hat from my shopping bag, put them on, lowered my head and furtively dragged the two of them away. "Let's go. Don't let him see me." The three of us squeezed into a luxury goods store. I stealthily peeked out to scout the enemy. Alice irritably pulled me back and took off my sunglasses. "Wait, I don't understand. Who exactly is cheating? Why did you run faster than him? What's going on?" "Of course he's cheating, but I can't let him know that I know he's cheating. What if he gets angry and breaks up with me? Where would I find another good thing like this?" Alice gave me a thumbs up. My bad, I was too narrow-minded. The three of us shamelessly stayed in the luxury store until closing time. We made sure Peter wouldn't be there, and then hesitantly went back. Not long after we got back to the dorm, Peter sent a message. "Were you out today?" I immediately denied it. No. Where $40,000 was concerned, admitting was impossible. Peter and I became more and more familiar with each other. Sometimes when he got up early, he would wait for me downstairs in the dorm. I practiced my makeup skills, and one day I made a special effort to get up early to put on an elegant light makeup look. I wore my black curls cascading over my shoulder and put on a pure white dress. As soon as I went downstairs, I saw his tall figure standing under a ginkgo tree. "Good morning, honey." I greeted him first. Peter casually looked up. When he saw me, the action of putting his cigarette to his lips stopped for a second, and he stared at me with depth in his eyes. Then he put out the cigarette and walked over. "Do I look good?" I twirled around to show off. He smirked and watched me finish my show. "You look good. Why did you get all dressed up today?" "I'll dress up like this every day from now on." I grabbed his arm. Peter's arm stiffened for a second, and he awkwardly turned his head. "You look good whether you dress up or not." Just as he finished speaking, his phone rang. Peter looked down and reluctantly picked up. "What?" "Baby Peter." It was a woman's voice, soft and tender. I could hear it very clearly. I guessed he hadn't realized that the speakerphone was on. The situation was a little awkward, so I decided to give them their privacy. "I'll go upstairs and get something." I ran back to my dorm in a flash. It was a good chance to grab the contract Alice had prepared. I peeked out the window until he finished the call before going out again. Peter's mood suddenly took a turn for the worse. His face was clouded and he didn't say a word all the way to class. I realized I shouldn't have made a sound just now. Was his sister being unreasonable? Did she misunderstand hearing a woman's voice and then fight with him? I was a little worried and even wanted to teach him a trick or two. Say that I was a classmate or a friend or a sister, anything was fine. Couldn't he come up with a good lie? During class, Peter sat silently. I was worried beside him. What was he waiting for? Why wasn't he taking out his phone and trying to coax her? After one short class, I was restless. Peter finally couldn't resist asking, "What are you writhing around about?" "Hee," I said with a forced smile. "It's my new clothes, not used to them." He stared at me for 2 seconds and suddenly got closer. "A woman just called me, aren't you jealous? Do you really think I'm just a heartless ATM?" To be honest, I don't think I was jealous. With the $40,000, I could forgive him for even the Sahara Desert. But couples in love should be jealous. "Of course I'm jealous," I said shamelessly. "Then show me how jealous you are." I punched Peter lightly in the chest with a small fist. "Bad man, how could you do this? I love you so much. And you're still strolling down the street holding hands with other girls and talking to them on the phone in front of me." While rummaging through my bag, I continued, You can't do that next time, honey. I'm going to punish you by signing this contract. By the time I handed him the contract, Peter was completely dumbfounded. It took him a long while before he signed the contract with a dark face, and with a few swift strokes. You're something else, Sherry Lee. Peter was angry. He didn't want me to go to class with him, and he didn't reply to my messages. And he walked around campus shoulder to shoulder with other girls, which I somehow managed to witness every single time. I was forced to wear a hat, mask, and sunglasses everywhere I went. Whenever I saw him, I'd quickly sneak away, acting like I saw nothing. Alice and Chloe were forced to hide with me every day. For a while, our dorm was like a guerrilla team with eyes and ears everywhere. I pondered for days trying to figure out how to coax him. Send roses? Put a heart-shaped display on the ground outside of his building? Write an apology letter? I couldn't figure anything out. I sent Peter a message to meet up and talk. I was going to coax him, and if I couldn't, I would just quit. I'd made enough money anyway. I wasn't going to continue playing this guerrilla war. As night fell, Peter finally replied. He sent a location, a bar. When I arrived at the bar, I called Peter. But it was his friend who picked up. Is this the sister-in-law? You can come in, Peter is drunk. The music in the bar was deafening. Young men and women with flamboyant makeup walked around. The dance floor was a hot mess. As soon as I went in, a few boys waved at me. Sister-in-law, we're here. I'd never seen them before, and I didn't know how they recognized me at first sight. I walked in and saw Peter lying on the sofa, leaning his head back, his hand lightly covering his eyes, revealing his thin lips and sharp jawline. Sister-in-law, did you and Peter have a fight? He's been drinking for days. It's rare that you came here today. Hurry up and coax him. Yeah, sister-in-law, Peter really likes you. Please don't take it out on him. The guys were all talking at once, and I became a little flustered. I went over and crouched down beside Peter. I gently shook his hand, which was covering his forehead, and whispered, Peter, are you okay? Peter frowned and grabbed my hand. Peter? Wasn't it honey every day? The music stopped for a few seconds when a new song came on, and everyone around us heard what he said. Oh my, how sweet. He wasn't clear when he was talking before, but now he's clear when he's talking to his wife. The teasing comments were all around and I blushed. You're going to die if you don't say a few words. Peter threw a pillow and stood up, swaying. I whispered, Want me to take you home? Yeah, Peter replied with an arm on my shoulder, stumbling a little. He liked to put his arm around my shoulder. Given our height difference, I often suspected that he was using me as a crutch. The designated driver drove us to a 2-story villa. I helped Peter out of the car. Is there anyone home? No, he replied in a dull voice. I hesitated for a long time, and seeing his swaying steps, I decided to help him inside and settle him down. Otherwise, he might have an accident. The inside was pitch black, and I could barely see the layout with the moonlight. 2 floors, many doors. So I asked him, Where is your bedroom? No need, I'll just sleep on the sofa. I stopped him. I've brought you all the way here, go to the bedroom. Peter lowered his head and rested it on my forehead, pulling me closer. The room was dark, but the starlight was enough to light up his dark eyes. He lowered his voice. Sherry Lee, even though I'm an ATM, I'm still a man. Are you so confident in me? My heart was pounding and I awkwardly turned my head. I'm not. That's right. Just sit with me on the sofa for a while. Peter fell onto the sofa and gently pulled my hand. I landed in his arms. Sherry, I'm in a bad mood, coax me. My face was flushed and I thought for a long time in his arms. Don't be in a bad mood. Peter couldn't help but chuckle. His chest vibrated softly, sending a tingling sensation through my heart. You don't even know how to coax someone. Is this the service you're providing? I was suddenly a little angry. I already let you hug me, what more do you want? Fine, I don't need anything else. This is already good. Just as he finished speaking, Peter's phone rang again, untimely. He took out the phone, looked at it and handed it to me. You answer it. I looked at the name, it was a woman's name. I didn't know what to do. Was I going to help him anger someone again? Don't overthink it, that's my mom. Just tell her I'm asleep. With a little anxiety, I picked up the phone. Hello, Auntie, Peter is already asleep. Is it okay if I have him call you back tomorrow? Are you his girlfriend? The voice on the other side asked, and I was taken aback. It was the woman who called him Baby Peter that day. It seemed that her natural voice was soft and gentle, like she was always flirting. I glanced at Peter, who was resting his chin on my shoulder, saying nothing. I had to bite the bullet and say, "Yes, Auntie." Oh my, Peter didn't tell me he has a girlfriend. Sweetheart, how old are you? Are you in the same school as Peter? For the next 20 minutes, I was being interrogated by Peter's mother. Everything from my educational background, age to my family history was asked. When I told her that I was an orphan, she was clearly quiet for 2 seconds and said softly, "Is that so? You must have suffered a lot." "I'm okay," I answered casually. Finally, I made up an excuse and hung up. "Your aunt is very gentle. Why didn't you want to answer?" The expression on Peter's face changed. "I don't know." "Then, have you been in a bad mood these past few days because you fought with your auntie?" "We didn't fight." Peter gave a bitter smile. "It's because it's my mom's birthday and my dad's death anniversary on the same day." "But that's not something your mom can choose." "Yeah, it's a weak excuse." Peter looked down. "Sherry Lee, I used to be a child without parents too." "That's impossible." I looked around. Even though the lights were off, I could tell how luxurious the villa was. "Were you adopted?" "No. When I was in elementary school, my dad got seriously ill. My mom divorced him because we had no money, so we had to give up on his treatment. He passed away quickly, and I became an orphan. Later, when I was in high school, my mom appeared again. My stepfather is very rich, but he's infertile, so she found me and wanted me to go back. A few days ago, it was my mom's birthday. She doesn't know that her birthday is on the same day as my dad's death anniversary, and I didn't tell her either. But whenever I see her, I always think if she hadn't left in the first place, would my dad have lived longer? My stepfather treats me like his own son, and my mom tries her best to make it up to me. I know she's just pursuing a better life, and that's not wrong. But there's always a thorn in my heart. Every time I try to get closer to her, the thorn goes deeper. "Sherry, do you resent your parents?" "No," I answered without a second thought. Life is short. I don't want to live in resentment. When someone complains about not having shoes, someone else doesn't have any legs at all. I'm healthy and well. There is no obstacle that I can't overcome. I was hopeless at comforting people. I'll try feeding him some chicken soup. Peter looked at me quietly. "Sherry Lee, you're nothing like I imagined." "Then what did you imagine I was like?" "Every time I saw you on campus, you always looked cold and bitter." "Of course," I rolled my eyes. "Can you smile when you have to work every day? Everyone looks like they owe me $2 million. "Then you should just continue to work," Peter said and hugged me tighter. "Read me a bedtime story and coax me to sleep. This counts as overtime." I muttered and started searching for a bedtime story on the internet. Once upon a time there was a mountain. In the mountain was a temple. In the temple was an old monk and a young monk. As I read, my eyelids became heavier and heavier, and the night grew darker. In my dream I heard Peter's voice. "Sherry, how about we try a serious relationship?" I answered hazily, "Pay me more." 500,000. I shook my head. 500,000 is not the price of a boyfriend. Huh. 500,000 is too little to be your boyfriend. I'll upgrade you to my birth parents. I will do all your bidding, how's that? "Never mind. Don't, we can negotiate. 400,000 is also fine." Peter's voice disappeared from my dream. Only I was left mumbling. "Are you still there? Hello? Is 350,000 a good price?" "Shut up, go to sleep." "Okay." The next day I woke up with a sore back. Peter shoved me into the car and rushed me to school for class. I complained, rubbing my waist. "How tightly did you hug me? I feel like my waist is about to break." Peter was embarrassed. "I was just afraid you'd fall. It wasn't intentional." "You weren't afraid I'd fall. You were just afraid I wouldn't die." Fine, I'll give you some compensation. Send me your card number, and I'll renew it for another year." I suddenly felt energized and quickly sent my card number. Then I reacted. "Aren't you going to graduate in half a year?" "It's none of your business. I just like college girls, okay?" I thought about it. If that's the case, I'll consider taking a leave of absence and staying behind. Peter glanced at me speechlessly. There's nothing you wouldn't think of. We made it to class right on time. There was only one empty seat in the classroom. Just as I sat down, two piercing glares swept from the front row. Bella and Chloe were looking at me with a disappointed expression. I had told them that I was going to talk to Peter yesterday then. I didn't get a chance to reply to their messages before falling asleep. I didn't come home that night. They probably misunderstood. After struggling through the 2 hours, the bell finally rang. Bella and Chloe quickly pulled me back to the dorm. Then they sat down seriously. Sherry, let's talk. If Peter falls out of love with you, let him go. We know you need money, but you can't use your body to keep a man. You doing this makes us feel. Stop. I interrupted quickly, afraid they'd say something scandalous. Nothing happened yesterday. Peter was drunk, so I took him home. Bella eyed me suspiciously. Really? Nothing happened. We hugged. Was it consensual? Kind of half-consensual. Chloe frowned. After all of this, could it be that you're actually lusting after him? Don't talk nonsense. I'm not, I said and lowered my head guiltily. I couldn't say it wasn't completely true, right? I was lusting after him a little bit. In less than 6 months, my sugar daddy's preferences notebook was filled with notes. I was getting more and more skilled at playing my girlfriend role. Everything. Peter liked what he loved to eat, what he loved to drink, what he loved to do. I even knew his friends and his mother's personalities like the back of my hand. I catered to his liking, upheld the traditional virtues every day, and never made him jealous. I was also well versed in 10 rules every smart woman must know. I never looked at his phone, never questioned his whereabouts, and gave him plenty of freedom. When we fought, it was usually because Peter complained that I gave him too much freedom. In my spare time, I would go to Peter's villa because he asked me to cook for him personally. Once I ran into Peter's mother at his villa. His aunt was very enthusiastic. With me there, Peter seemed less awkward, and we had a pleasant time. Unknowingly, I had completely integrated into his life. If it wasn't for the more than 1 million in my bank card, I would have forgotten that our relationship was based on money. During the national holiday, I had nowhere to go, and I was bored in the dorm, so Peter pulled me back to his villa. I was waiting for him at the school gate when the beautiful "Science will make China stronger" woman appeared again. She walked in her high heels and looked down at Peter and me with disdain. Then she got into a convertible and drove off. My motorcycle is more expensive than that broken convertible, he said. What's she acting all tough for? Hold me tight. As soon as he finished, the motorcycle roared and took off. I hugged Peter tightly, and through his thin t-shirt I noticed that his waist felt strange. I curiously touched it a few more times. Why is the fat on your stomach hard? That's a freaking up. Did you touch it enough? Oh. I awkwardly took my hand back. Then I turned my head to see that the convertible was awkwardly stopped in the middle of the road. The driver was not in the driver's seat. It seemed that the car had broken down. Peter slowed down and I immediately cooperated. Older sister, you wait slowly, we'll go first, bye-bye. Peter accelerated and we sped away. On the way to the villa, a phrase appeared in my mind. I'll hand my husband a knife for a fight. I'll shout if he's cursing. But I never expected that I would have to take care of my husband's baby mama in confinement. When we arrived at the villa, we sat on the carpet in his bedroom, surrounded by snacks. We started watching a horror movie on a phone screen. I was a scaredy cat, but I loved to watch horror movies. In less than half an hour, I was already in Peter's arms. I was watching the most thrilling part of the movie when countless warnings flashed across the screen. I was holding Peter's arm, staring at the screen, ready to scream. Suddenly, 2 messages popped up on his WeChat. I'm pregnant. My due date is in a few days. The air became quiet, and I stared at those words, ignoring the terrifying face on the screen. After a long time, thinking about the balance in my bank card, I hesitantly asked, how about I go help your baby mama during her confinement period? Peter's arms around me suddenly loosened. Sure, he said coldly. Pack your bags tomorrow, go help her give birth. Otherwise, I'm afraid you won't feel at ease about making this money. Okay, I'll go prepare now. I quietly picked up my bag and went to the mall to buy baby supplies. While I was shopping, tears started falling down my face. I didn't even know what I had bought. I was holding several bags of baby supplies and sat blankly in the crowded mall. Sherry. Zane's face suddenly appeared in front of me. Zane. I quickly wiped away my tears. What's all this? He asked and glanced at the baby supplies I had. While wiping my tears, I explained, No, this is for my friend's baby. Zane looked shocked. Alice is pregnant? I started crying again and choked out. Not them, it's Peter's girlfriend. But aren't you his girlfriend? Did you break up? No, I have to help his mistress during her confinement. Whoa, Zane, why is my life so hard? I started wailing while holding on to Zane's arm. Zane was completely bewildered. He consoled me for half an hour, and my emotions slowly stabilized. After I calmed down, Zane looked at me carefully. Do you feel better now that you've cried? Yeah. I lowered my head, embarrassed by what I had said. Luckily, Zane didn't ask any more questions. Instead, he helped me carry the bags of supplies and walked me back to my building. Do you want me to take you home? No need. I stared at a figure that was passing by not far away. It looked like Peter. Sherry Lee. Yeah. I snapped back. The warm yellow light of the streetlights lit up Zane's face, making him look more tender than before. If Peter doesn't treat you well, you can consider me. I lowered my head and stared at the pile of baby supplies next to my feet, and said through gritted teeth, Actually, Peter treats me pretty well. Even though he wanted me to help his mistress with her confinement, he still treated me pretty well. Zane smiled politely but distantly. Okay, I guessed that much. I respect your choice. He was always like that. Gentle, thoughtful, and firm. But the sudden and uncontrollable emotions I just had made me realize that my feelings for Peter might be real. Even though I now knew that I was just one of the fish in his net, I felt that I was entitled to all the money. When I arrived back at the villa, Peter was already asleep. I tidied up and went to sleep. It was just a transaction. I had nothing to be angry about. The emotional breakdown earlier might have been because the corner of my heart, which was holding on to hope, had suddenly collapsed. Early the next morning, I took the baby supplies and sat in Peter's car to go help his mistress during her confinement. Peter stopped in front of the hospital room. You go in first. I'll be back in a while. I nodded and went in. The woman in the room was sleeping. About 29 years old, with luminous fair skin. She must be the woman I accidentally bumped into at the mall that day. I tried to put down the stuff as quietly as possible, but I still managed to wake her up. The woman sat up slowly. Why are you here, sweetie? Where's Peter? My heart ached. She called me sweetie as easily as I did. It seemed that rich men could make women disregard everything. Hello, older sister, I said knowingly, and began to pour her some water. Peter said he'd be back in a while. He asked me to take care of you first. No. You can put that down. You're a guest. How can I let you take care of me? It's okay, older sister, I said with a bitter smile and began to do chores. Well, I'll just think of this as a babysitting job. I'll get $40,000 a month, so I'm not at a loss. As I was working, a stranger walked in. The man went straight to the woman on the bed, sat by her side, and gently kissed her on the forehead. How are you? Still uncomfortable. The woman kissed his cheek. I feel much better, baby. I stared in astonishment. A love quadrangle? Who was cheating on whom? Was this the rich world? At least do it behind my back. I didn't dare make a sound. At this moment, Peter walked in, holding a bunch of nutritional supplements. The two on the bed were still leaning on each other. I was excited. It was finally time to reveal the truth. But to my surprise, the man on the bed didn't bat an eye. He greeted Peter warmly. Peter is here. The woman chided Peter. You're really something. You let your sister-in-law come alone while you ran off. I'm here now. Besides, she really wanted to help you with your confinement. I couldn't stop her. I was dumbfounded. Then Peter introduced me. This is my cousin, and this is her husband. Me. Damn it. In the evening, Peter took me home. As soon as we got home, I punched him in the chest. You're playing me, right? Ouch. Peter rubbed his chest. How am I playing you? Didn't you want to help with the confinement? I took you there. What's the problem? You knew I thought that was your My what? Peter looked down, grabbed my waist and pulled me forward. Girlfriend? Aren't you my girlfriend? You knew I was misunderstanding, so why didn't you explain it? Sherry Lee, you are so bold. You are even willing to help a mistress with her confinement. What else can you misunderstand? Besides, when I was about to explain it, didn't you already have Zane? Forget it, you're my boss, so I won't argue. I pushed him away. Peter grabbed my wrist and pulled me back to his side. Sherry Lee, I don't want to be your boss anymore. Are you firing me? I'll trade all of my wealth for a marriage certificate, okay? Dream on, how much wealth can you, a student, have? I said without thinking. Peter was amused. Anyway, the $40,000 a month is enough to be your boss for 20 to 30 years. What? Did you become greedy? Thinking about my countless zeros in my bank account, I swallowed. But I still managed to stop myself. No, it's too fast. I haven't graduated yet, and I haven't even started working yet. Maybe I'll be richer than you in the future. And I can also hire a college student for $40,000 a month. Don't even think about it. Peter looked down, resting his forehead against mine, and said with depth in his eyes, Then I want to be a boyfriend. As if I was burned by his deep gaze, I looked away uncomfortably. Aren't you already my boyfriend? Not in name only, Peter said and moved closer. His lips brushed against my nose. I want to be a real one. Like this. A warm sensation fell. My mind went blank. After a long time I regained my senses. Peter, don't you hate how money-obsessed I am? I wish you were more money-obsessed, so that when I trade all of my wealth for a marriage certificate, you won't refuse. Then should we try it out? Peter smirked. Sure, let's continue. Soon Peter graduated. After graduation, he didn't go to his stepfather's company. Instead, he went to work on software development. Because of this, his family stopped paying his living expenses. At that time, my luck suddenly turned on again. The stocks I had bought randomly had skyrocketed. My savings had increased several times. I simply bought several houses and rented them out while studying for my graduate degree. Peter was also earning, but he was obviously not as successful as me. Suddenly, I had become richer than Peter. Peter became suspicious every day. He worked out every day because he was afraid that I would hire a college student as my boyfriend. On our 2-year anniversary, he was particularly depressed. He held me and said gloomily, Sherry, what should I do? You've become a young millionaire at such a young age. Do you look down on my wealth even more now? I nodded. I do. Peter thought for a long time. Then I'll stop working on software development. See if my stepfather's entire family fortune is enough. If it is, I'll go back home and inherit the company. Oh. Peter looked at me confidently. Why? There are so many assets, I'd be a fool not to take them. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Then I'll hire you as my boyfriend. In the future, I will be your boss. If I haven't fired you in 2 years, then I'll make you a permanent employee. How's that? It's a deal, Peter said, fearing that I might go back on my word. From then on, Peter also had a notebook called The Rich Wife's Preferences. He was very serious about it and every page was filled with notes. One day he quietly flipped through his notebook and sighed. Look at my attitude, it's much more serious than yours was back then. I couldn't resist grabbing it and looking at it. I discovered that the first few pages were actually written 2 years ago. There were only a few short sentences written every day. I'm not the only one that doesn't know how to date. Sherry Lee actually searched up how to coax a boyfriend today. First picture together. Why do I feel like I am being outshined by her? I waited so long, but Sherry Lee didn't ask me to post on social media. I couldn't resist going behind her back to make it official. It was my first time showing off, and I was a little nervous. Today I bumped into Sherry Lee when my cousin was dragging me to buy my mom a birthday present. When she saw me, she quickly ran off with sunglasses on like some thief. So strange. Sherry Lee actually put on makeup today, so freaking pretty. My mood was already bad today, and Sherry Lee still tried to make me sign the contract. I was so mad. I've been walking around with my classmates for the past 3 to 4 days, and Sherry Lee hasn't come to coax me. When she sees me, she runs off with her sunglasses on. Is this how I should be treated? Enough already, Sherry Lee, those are sunglasses, Not invisibility glasses. I hugged Sherry Lee today. I'm not angry anymore. My heart has melted. I was going to confess my feelings, but why did I end up saying to renew our contract for another year? Never mind, I'll prepare myself and confess next year. Sherry Lee cooked for me today. So delicious. I love watching horror movies with Sherry the most. She hugs me and never lets go. Sherry is so cute. Actually, Sherry's face is still pretty stern when she is not working. She only smiles when she's with me. I like it so much. After that, it was just endless compliments. Great, I picked up a Pure Love brain. Don't read anymore. I didn't realize how corny it was when I was writing it. Peter snatched the notebook away, and his ears were as red as blood. I'm not going to call it The Rich Wife's Preferences anymore. It's going to be called My Simp Diary instead. I corrected him. That's not a simp, that's called professionalism. Sherry, I already showed you my diary. Can you show me yours now? I shook my head like a rattle drum. Impossible, absolutely impossible. Don't even think about it. Because my diary only has 2 New Year's wishes. I hope Sherry Lee will have a bright future. I hope Sherry Lee and Peter will be together forever. The end.